I was invited to my sister's wedding, but my husband wasn't, and now I know why. I'm a 34-year-old woman married to my husband, Eric, for about 5 years now. Everything's been great between us, and we've always been pretty involved with my family, especially my younger sister Alex, who's 30. Alex recently got engaged to her fiancé, Luke, and of course we were excited for them. I always thought Eric got along with my family well enough. Nothing major that stood out. But then something happened that threw me for a loop, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So a few weeks ago, I get this wedding invitation from Alex. I was honestly pumped. I've been really looking forward to her wedding, celebrating with family, catching up with everyone, and just being there for her. The invitation was beautiful, like one of those fancy cards with gold trim, the kind that immediately makes you realize how formal the wedding is going to be. I open it expecting to see both our names, but nope, it was just for me. That was odd. I double-checked. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a joint invite, just my name. No mention of Eric. At first, I thought maybe it's just a simple mistake, or maybe there was some sort of weird guest list issue. I didn't say anything to Eric right away, because I didn't want to freak him out if it was just a mix-up. Instead, I decided to get to the bottom of it. Quietly, I called my dad, figuring he'd know what's going on. My dad and I are pretty close, so I thought he'd be able to clear it up easily. But when I asked him about it, he seemed off. He hesitated for a second, like he was thinking about how to answer me. Then he gave me this weird, half-baked explanation about how Alex and Luke were trying to keep the guest list small and that maybe they didn't have space for plus ones. I didn't like how he said it, though. It was way too casual, like he was trying to brush it off. And honestly, it didn't sit right with me. But at the time, I just let it go. I told myself that maybe I was overthinking it and I'd deal with it later. I should have trusted my gut, because later turned out to be a whole mess. Eventually, I had to tell Eric about the invitation. I didn't want to hide it from him, and I figured he'd notice something was up when I didn't bring it up, so I told him. He took it pretty hard. Honestly, way more than I expected. He's always been really family-oriented, and we've gone to every family event together since we got married. So not being invited to Alex's wedding felt personal to him, like he was being left out deliberately. And I could tell he was hurt, even though he tried to play it off like he wasn't. I kept reassuring him that it was probably some kind of mistake, that I'd figure it out, but the more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I got. I decided to text Alex casually like, "Hey girl, just got your invite. Wanted to check about Eric's. Wasn't sure if his was separate or something." I didn't want to sound confrontational just in case it really was a mistake. But to my surprise, Alex didn't respond, which was weird because we talk all the time. A day or two passed with no word from her. I could feel this knot growing in my stomach. I tried not to make a big deal of it in front of Eric, but I knew something was off. The following weekend, we had this family barbecue at my cousin's place. I figured I'd see Alex there, and maybe I could talk to her in person. At the very least, I was hoping someone would bring up the wedding so I could get a better sense of what was going on. During the barbecue, I overheard my cousin chatting with someone about Alex and Luke's guest list, how strict they were being about who they invited. I wasn't even really paying attention until someone else mentioned that everyone's significant others were invited except for Eric. That's when I started to feel that gnawing feeling again. It wasn't just some mix-up. They had deliberately left him out. I decided right then that I needed to have a serious conversation with my parents. If they knew what was going on, they were either covering it up or didn't think it was important enough to address. So I pulled them aside later that day and asked them flat out why Eric wasn't invited. My mom tried to brush it off like it wasn't a big deal, but my dad was avoiding eye contact the whole time. He kept saying things like, "It's just one day, and we don't want any drama before the wedding." That was when I knew something more was going on, and they weren't telling me the full story. Later that night, Eric asked me point blank what was up with the wedding invite. I didn't have the heart to lie to him, so I told him what I had heard at the barbecue and how Alex still hadn't responded to me. He was upset, obviously, but more than that, he felt singled out, like he had done something to deserve being excluded. And honestly, I didn't have any answers for him. The more I thought about it, the more I started to feel like I was missing something big. Eric wondered if maybe it was because of a disagreement he had with my dad a while back, but that seemed so minor in comparison to what was happening now. None of it made sense. The whole thing was starting to wear on both of us, and I knew I had to confront Alex directly. It wasn't just about the wedding anymore, it was about something bigger, and I needed to know what was really going on before things got even worse. Update when I decided to stop waiting around and reached out to Alex directly. I texted her asking if we could meet up. I told her we needed to talk about the wedding and why Eric wasn't invited. After a few hours of no response, she finally got back to me and agreed to meet later in the week. She said she'd bring Luke along too, which I was fine with. I wanted to hear his side of things anyway. After days of waiting, the day of the meeting with Alex and Luke finally arrived. I was nervous, and so was Eric. He wanted to come with me, but I asked him not to. I needed to find out what was going on without his presence, without the emotional weight he would bring to the conversation. I also wanted to avoid making Alex or Luke feel like they were being cornered, which could make them hide even more of the truth. We met at a cafe near my parents' house, a neutral place where I hoped things wouldn't spiral out of control. Alex arrived first, and she looked uncomfortable. Luke showed up shortly after, and I could see on his face that he wasn't thrilled about this meeting. I took a sip of my coffee and took a deep breath, trying to stay calm before starting. So, Alex, I want to understand what's going on, I began, looking directly at her. Why wasn't Eric invited to your wedding? She looked down, nervously stirring her teaspoon. Luke crossed his arms and avoided making eye contact, which only fueled my frustration. I don't know how to tell you this, she began hesitantly. It's not something I wanted to come to this. What do you mean, come to this? I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. We're talking about my husband, the man I've been with for 5 years. Why was he excluded? Luke finally spoke, his voice dry and cold. It's because he's not welcome. That caught me off guard. I knew something was wrong, but hearing it so bluntly felt like a punch to the gut. Not welcome? I asked in disbelief. What are you talking about? Alex glanced at Luke, almost as if seeking his permission to speak, and that made my blood boil. Was she letting him control her? Or was there something even darker happening? Eric, he's part of the problem, Alex muttered, still avoiding eye contact. Luke never liked him, and some things that happened over the last few months just made things worse. What things? I demanded. Eric has never done anything against you. He's always been kind and respectful to our family. I want to know exactly what's going on. Luke laughed, but it wasn't a friendly laugh. It was sarcastic, almost cruel. You know, maybe the problem is that you can't see who Eric really is. That made my anger spike. How dare Luke talk like that about my husband? What the hell do you mean by that? I shot back, my words laced with fury. Alex, visibly upset, finally lifted her gaze to meet mine. Luke thinks Eric has been hitting on me, she blurted out, and for a moment, everything around me seemed to freeze. I blinked, trying to process those words. What? My voice was barely a whisper. Are you serious, Alex? This has to be a joke. She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. No, I swear it's not. Luke thinks he's always been interested in me. He found it strange how Eric always wanted to be around, how he stood too close at family gatherings. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt my blood boiling with anger. Alex, this is completely absurd. Eric would never do something like that. I yelled. He's your brother-in-law. He treats you like a sister. It's always been that way. Luke interrupted. He might treat you like a sister, but he looks at you like something else. You don't know him like I do, I replied, standing up from my chair, unable to sit still through these ridiculous accusations. Alex was crying now, and Luke remained impassive, like he had complete control of the situation. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about Eric. It never was. This is all just an excuse, isn't it? I asked, staring Luke down with fury. You've always hated Eric. Not because of Alex, but because he's the only one who doesn't buy into your misogynistic and manipulative garbage. He never gave you the attention you think you deserve, and now you're using my sister to push him out of the family. Luke said nothing, but the look he gave me confirmed my suspicions. He was trying to isolate Alex, manipulating the situation to push away anyone who could open her eyes to what he truly was. I turned to Alex, and my heart broke seeing how deeply she was entangled in this. maybe without even realizing it. Alex, please, see what's happening. This isn't about Eric. It's about control, about Luke isolating you. Don't you see he's pushing away everyone who cares about you? My voice trembled with frustration. She shook her head, unable to speak through her sobs. Luke placed his hand on her shoulder as if to comfort her, but I could see the real intention behind that gesture. He was reinforcing his authority over her. That's enough, Luke said, his voice cold and calculated. We're not changing our minds. Eric isn't welcome at the wedding, and if you can't accept that, maybe you shouldn't come either. It felt like the ground crumbled beneath me. My own sister was willing to exclude me from her wedding over a ridiculous lie planted by a controlling man. Without saying another word, I stood up and walked out of the cafe. My legs were shaking, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. When I got home, Eric was waiting anxiously. He knew I'd had an important conversation, but he had no idea what I had uncovered. When I looked into his eyes, I felt a mix of sadness and fury. What happened? He asked, worried. I told him everything. The accusations, Luke's manipulation, Alex's blindness to what was really going on. Eric was shocked, but more than that, he was devastated. Being falsely accused of something so disgusting was more than anyone could bear. They want us out of their lives. Eric, I said, my voice hoarse with frustration. And the worst part is that my own sister is letting it happen. In that moment, I decided I wouldn't go to the wedding. I couldn't support a marriage built on lies and manipulation. I cut ties with Alex and Luke, and though it was a painful decision, it was the only choice I had left. I couldn't stand by and watch my sister sink further into that toxic relationship. And so, the wedding happened without us. I heard later that it was a grand event, full of fake smiles and empty promises. But I wasn't there to witness the charade. Meanwhile, Eric and I moved on with our lives, closer than ever, knowing we had done the right thing. I still felt the sting of what had happened, but I also felt relief in not having given in to the manipulation and lies. Life taught us that sometimes blood ties aren't enough to keep a family together, and that some battles, no matter how painful, need to be fought with your head held high and your heart free of deceit. Months passed since Alex and Luke's wedding. Eric and I moved on with our lives, but the tension from being excluded from the wedding and everything that happened still hung in the air. I tried to push it all behind me, to let go of the past, but something inside me wouldn't let me rest completely. The way things ended, how my own sister had pushed me away because of Luke, and the ridiculous accusations against Eric, all of it kept haunting me. Over time, though, I began to notice subtle changes in Eric. He became more distant, more withdrawn. There were moments when he seemed lost in thought, and whenever I asked him what was wrong, he'd give me vague answers like, I'm just tired, or it's work stuff. At first, I believed him. After all, he had been through an emotionally draining experience too, being falsely accused and left out of the wedding. Maybe he was just processing things the way I was. But as more time passed, things felt increasingly off. Eric, who had always been affectionate and attentive, began to pull away more and more. He was constantly on his phone, receiving texts late at night, and he started taking it with him everywhere, something he had never done before. This behavior began to bother me deeply, but I tried to brush off my feelings, convincing myself that it was just paranoia from everything we had been through. Then one day, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed with a notification. I was sitting on the bed, and without thinking much, I picked it up. My heart nearly stopped when I saw the name on the screen, Alex. The message was brief. We need to talk. My hands trembled. Why would Alex be texting Eric? They weren't supposed to be in contact after everything that had happened. With his phone still in my hand, I did something I never thought I'd do. I unlocked it. My stomach churned as I scrolled through their messages. And there it was, a long thread of texts between Eric and Alex, dating back months, long before I'd received that wedding invitation. I started reading, and as I did, my world began to fall apart. The messages revealed something I could never have imagined. Eric and Alex had been having an affair. They'd been secretly meeting, exchanging passionate messages, and worst of all, Eric had fallen for her. He had suggested that maybe her marriage to Luke was a mistake, that they should be together. In one message, sent just weeks before the wedding, Eric wrote, "I can't keep hiding this anymore. I want to be with you, not her. I can't keep pretending." And then, Alex replied with something that made my blood run cold. "We can't do this. Luke will never accept it, and my family will hate me. I'm scared you'll say something at the wedding. It's better if you don't come." At that moment, everything became crystal clear. The real reason Eric wasn't invited to Alex's wedding wasn't because Luke had an issue with him or because of a limited guest list. Alex was afraid Eric would confess everything at the wedding, that he would reveal their affair and destroy her new life with Luke. I felt sick to my stomach. My own husband, the person I trusted more than anyone, had betrayed me in the worst possible way, with my own sister. And Alex, to protect herself, had lied to everyone, excluded me from the wedding, and covered up their dirty secret. Eric wasn't a victim of exclusion. He was a willing participant. And I, blinded by love and trust, had never suspected a thing. I couldn't hold back the tears. I ran to the bathroom and locked myself inside, my body shaking with anger and devastation. How could he do this to me? How could Alex, my own sister, betray me like this? All those fights, all those moments when I defended Eric to my family, now felt utterly ridiculous. I was the only one who didn't know the truth. Eric came out of the shower and knocked on the door, asking if I was okay. I didn't respond. I sat on the floor, trying to control the fury burning inside me. When I finally opened the door, he looked at me with concern, but there was something in his eyes, as if he knew I had found out. "Do you want to tell me what's going on?" I asked, my voice cold and controlled, a storm brewing just beneath the surface. Eric hesitated, and at that moment, I knew he was scrambling to find an excuse, a way to continue lying to me. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, his voice faltering. I laughed bitterly, picking up his phone and throwing it toward him. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. I read everything. You and Alex. The affair. The lies. All of it." Eric's face went pale. He opened his mouth, as if to deny it, but then closed it again when he realized there was no way out. The silence that followed was deafening. "How could you do this to me?" I shouted, my voice finally breaking, cracked by the weight of everything I was feeling. "My own sister, Eric? How could you betray me like this?" He tried to step toward me, but I backed away, refusing to let him get any closer. I was filled with disgust, with rage. He didn't deserve to be near me. I didn't mean for this to happen," he started to say, but his words were empty. There was nothing he could say to fix this. He and Alex had destroyed my trust, my family, everything. I knew, right then and there, that there was no going back. There was no way I could forgive him, no way I could move forward with him. Our life together had been built on lies, and I couldn't live with that. I didn't know what I would do next, but the one thing I knew for sure was that our marriage was over. I left the house that night, without looking back. I was heartbroken, devastated, but I knew I deserved better than this. The rain was pouring heavily that night as I drove to Alex's house. The words I had read on Eric's phone kept echoing in my mind like a nightmare I couldn't escape. "We can't do this. I'm scared you'll say something at the wedding." There was no more room for doubt. Eric and Alex had been having an affair, and to cover up their betrayal, she manipulated everyone and pushed me away, including her husband, Luke. When I arrived at their house, the sound of the rain hitting the windshield felt like a prelude to the storm that was about to happen. I banged on the door, not caring about the late hour or the weather. The only thing that mattered was confronting her and exposing the truth. Alex opened the door, her eyes widening with surprise when she saw me standing there. But there was also a flicker of fear in her expression. She knew something was wrong. "What are you doing here?" she asked nervously, trying to keep her voice steady. I didn't waste any time. I had nothing left to lose. "I know about you and Eric." For a split second, her face went completely pale. The shock was written all over her features, but she quickly tried to regain composure. She glanced back into the house as if considering slamming the door in my face, but before she could act, Luke appeared in the hallway. "Who is it, Alex?" Luke asked, walking up to the door. I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, determined not to let her weasel her way out of this. Alex looked terrified, and for once, she had a reason to be. "Luke, you need to hear this too. Alex and Eric, they've been having an affair." The silence in the room was deafening. Luke looked at me, bewildered, then turned to Alex, waiting for her to deny it. But Alex didn't say anything. She just stood there, paralyzed, as tears began to form in her eyes. What are you talking about?" Luke stammered, turning back to me, hoping for an explanation that made sense. "I found their messages," I said coldly, my voice unwavering. "They've been hiding it for months. Alex and Eric have been sleeping together." Luke's face twisted in confusion, shock, and then dawning horror. He turned back to Alex, waiting for her to refute it, to tell him I was lying. But the silence was all the confirmation he needed. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice breaking, pleading for her to say no. The hesitation from Alex was answer enough. She began to cry, choking on her words. "It was a mistake, Luke. I didn't want this to happen." But Luke wasn't listening anymore. His entire demeanor changed. The betrayal hit him like a punch to the gut, and the disbelief quickly turned into anger. "You slept with him?" His voice trembled, filled with devastation. Alex nodded, tears streaming down her face. That was all Luke needed to hear. He looked at her as though she were a stranger, as if he had never seen her before. He stepped back, shaking his head. Without another word, he pulled out his phone and, in front of both of us, called his lawyer. "I want a divorce," he said, his voice flat, emotionless. "It's over." Alex collapsed to the floor, sobbing, trying to grab onto Luke's arm, but he pulled away without even looking at her. Their marriage, their future, it was all gone in an instant. The truth had shattered everything. I stood there, feeling strangely detached. Alex's tears, her pleading, didn't stir any sympathy in me. She had destroyed everything, and now she was facing the consequences. Without a word, I turned and walked out of the house. The rain was still pouring as I made my way to my car, but I barely felt it. I had unleashed the truth, and now, for the first time in what felt like ages, I was free. Free from the lies, the betrayal, and the pain that had been suffocating me for so long. I drove home in silence. When I got there, Eric was waiting for me, his face filled with the dread of knowing what I had discovered. He didn't need to say anything. The moment I walked through the door, he knew. "I'm leaving, Eric," I said, my voice steady and firm. "Our marriage is over." He tried to say something, to explain or plead, but I didn't give him the chance. I packed my things, ignoring his apologies, and walked out the door. I wasn't just leaving our home. I was leaving behind a life that had been built on deceit. The months that followed were hard. Dealing with the end of my marriage and the betrayal of my sister took a toll on me, but I slowly began to rebuild. I moved into my own place, cut off all contact with Alex and Eric, and even distanced myself from most of my family. I needed time to heal, to focus on myself, and to start fresh. I threw myself into my work, and bit by bit, things started to improve. As time went on, I started hearing rumors about Alex and Eric through family members. Not long after everything fell apart, Alex and Eric ran off together, trying to start a new life. But just like everything else between them, it didn't last. Alex became pregnant, and Eric, overwhelmed and unsure of what to do, abandoned her. He left her alone, pregnant and struggling. I heard that they were both in financial trouble, scraping by just to survive. But the truth was, I didn't care anymore. Their problems no longer mattered to me. While they were stuck in their own mess, I had moved on. My career took off, and I achieved more success than I ever imagined. I built a life for myself that was better and stronger than the one I had left behind. Years later, when I had long since healed from the past, something unexpected happened. I met someone. He was kind, intelligent, and understanding, and we connected in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Slowly, I let myself fall for him, allowing myself to open up to love again. But life has a strange sense of humor. After a few months of dating, I found out who he was. The man I had fallen for was none other than Luke, Alex's ex-husband. When I realized, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The irony was almost too much to handle. Luke and I sat down and talked about everything: the past, the betrayal, the pain we had both endured. It turned out that we had more in common than I ever could have imagined. We had both been victims of Alex and Eric's lies, and somehow, after all those years, we had found each other. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about the past. It was about two people who had been broken finding peace in one another. Slowly but surely, we started to build something real, something honest, something lasting. Alex and Eric had long since faded into the background, their lives a distant memory, filled with mistakes and regrets. Luke and I, we had moved on, and we had found love in the most unexpected place. Together, we had created a new beginning, a future built not on lies and deceit, but on trust, respect, and love. And in the end, that was all that mattered.